This is the Earth Science Classroom. Welcome back to the channel. So we're looking at a classic lab we do in the classroom with the students, and it's on soil separation. It's in soil science, and we're investigating the soil and the applications of the soil, the characteristics, and we're going to separate the soil into the three distinct components of the mineral particles, which is sand, silt, and clay. Now the other parts of the soil is going to be pore space of air and water, and a little bit of organic material. So we have our soil and our volumetric beaker. So this separation lab is key to looking at soil and the soil properties, because the texture which we're trying to figure out by using this lab and to figure out the separation, the texture is the overall combination of sand, silt, and clay within the soil profile, and that kind of controls how the soil has various characteristics like the water holding capacity, soil colloids, and how nutrients flow, and how infiltration rates are affected, and how there's general growth and biomass, and how the soil is going to hold all of the biotic components. So it's a very important lab to figure out. So the hardest part of the lab for me was to transfer effectively the soil sample from my paper cup, which I kind of collected from outside in the forest, and in the lab tried to, as cleanly and neatly as possible, transfer the soil into the glass beaker so it's nice and contained. And this took a little while because of my methods I chose. But once you have the soil in the glass, you can also inspect it. Any kind of leaves or branches you can kind of take out if you can. And then you're ready to add the water to mix with the soil. So you want to add some water to the soil within the glass beaker. And you want to leave a little gap at the top for air so you can shake it easily and there's enough room for it to mix effectively. And you put the cap on nice and tight and you shake it. So you kind of like mix up and disturb the soil and make sure everything is adequately and correctly mixed. Could take a few seconds to get everything mixed up, and you're going to check the bottom to see anything that was left that didn't get shaken up with the mixture. And you want to have this nice muddy solution in the glass beaker. And then what you're going to do is you're going to leave it overnight or over a certain amount of hours for it to settle and let gravity do its thing, and that will naturally separate the three components: the sand, silt, and clay. The sand is the larger, heavier particles that will sink to the bottom. Then you have the silt, and then finally the clay, which is the smallest and lightest. So this is the same jar, just the next day, so about 12 hours later. Give enough time for the gravity to do its thing in the glass with the particles, and you'll see there is somewhat of a clear separation between the bottom sediment, which is going to be sand, the middle area, which will be the silt, and then there's a tiny small fraction of clay, which is the light brown at the very top of our soil sample. And then you have the mixture of water where it's kind of has a solution of little bits of soil within that solution and organic matter on the top. And then you can measure the overall amount of soil you have with a ruler using centimeters or millimeters, and then you can use your simple math to figure out the percentages of both the sand, silt, and clay compared to the total amount of soil you have in the bottle. So once you have your measured amount of sand, silt, and clay, you'd put it into the formula and divide it by the total amount, and you get a percentage of how much sand there is within this soil amount, and silt, and then finally clay. And then you can use these percentages to put into your soil triangle to figure out the texture, whether it be sandy loam or silty loam or just whether you have more or less of one of the three components. Now, based on what we see in observations, you're going to have a lot of sand and silt, so it would be maybe a sandy loam or a silty loam mixture of soil that you have. Once you've established the soil texture, you can then use this texture to understand the soil a bit better in terms of the soil fertility, the soil percolation rates, and all these different attributes that the texture would give the soil, and you'd have a better understanding of the landscape, perhaps the erosion rates, what kind of plants or animals would inhabit this area based on the soil and the kind of biomes you have, so you can apply it to anything you want once you've established the soil texture. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, please subscribe and hit the like button. If you like more of this content, please check out my channel, which has all these videos